The next thing I wanted to do tonight is I know we have all these unreleased cards that like got released this week, and I'm gonna save that. I want to do way too early leader rankings, and I want to do that because I'm selfish and I really like leader ranking stuff, and I think that that's just like how else do you get that across to people, right? And so like this is where Alex and I get to argue for like 45 minutes, and that's what usually happens. Though we are both control players mainly, though you've been branching out a little bit to that aggro. I'm
I
super
play
sold on that.
everything, which is really funny that like I'm known as like Palpatine and like a lot of ability and stuff, and then like 2 showdown wins were with hero decks.
So what I wanted to do for tonight is I wanted to do our way too early set rankings for the leaders, and I only say this because you're going to be going to play in your locals, and you should play what you like, right? Like that's what you should be doing. Play the decks you like, play the cards you like. Don't go. Tanner said we should only be playing this. No. But I think the idea is as you are working towards building something that is going to become in the future uh like a deck that you're going to take to a PQ or a store showdown or something like that. This is kind of how we feel this is where you start that deck construction. So I have our fancy little create a single use tier list up from Tier Maker. Kind of like this a lot. I do have 2 previs lists, so just ignore that because I don't know how to delete it out of there. Just so you know. But I thought we would kick this off, and this is kind of I throw showcases in there. I've been doing that quite a bit lately. But I think we're going to kick this off because what I want to do is I want to grab Jango Fett, and we're going to talk about Jango Fett, I think, first, because he is going to be the easiest one and can be a good palate cleanser, is what we'll call it. Maybe he'll be the new MOBA. Maybe he won't. Alex, where do you think Jango Fett fits?
Probably about a C tier, honestly.
C tier? Oh my.
Yep. Yeah,
Oh.
you chose one that's gonna be like we're
Ugh.
not even close on apparently.
Nope.
I mean, again, exhausting units is fine and all. I just don't think he's particularly that strong. 3/7 for 5 is okay. Exhausting things is fine. I don't see exactly a path of like what do you red and put on some. You're gonna make a red force deck and have like fallen lightsabers, or like a red Mando deck and have like the flamethrower and stuff, mass exhaust, and hope the opponent doesn't just kill whatever's doing that.
They can, and the difference is they're killing that versus going to your base. You're saving base health. I'm gonna put him in B tier. I would put him on the low end of A. Personally, I think that he is going to be a menace, but
Really?
I do think that because I think exhaust. If you, it's especially if you look at you using it as more of a control style and then being able to win in the end game, that's where I think he succeeds. I think he's really good in the fact that you are going to be able to control things. And like they could do board wipes, but you don't care because you're there to control what they're putting down. And if we look at cunning, for example, that's a very impactful, powerful card. This is giving us like a cunning ability to begin with. And like, so this, I think it will still lose to like heavy control, but I think this is a great tempo suck against a lot of any of the aggro decks that we're going to see. So I guess I'll concede with the B tier, and then we'll see as we go through here whether he sits in the high B tier.
I don't even know what your end game pieces are going to be if you're trying to stall out the game that long. Like, there's not much in yellow that's like an end game thing, so it'd be whatever color you hook them up with. And if it's red, it's like, cool, you got crate dragons. You just gotta, I don't know, get there. Like I don't see why you're so high on him, honestly.
Yeah, I'm very high on Django. I feel we've had some good success with them, but we will see.
Get the fire spray comes in ready, I guess, at the very least.
All right. So why don't we pick a leader now that we both probably agree on, and we'll pick Padme as S tier. Oh, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, I mean,
So
if
we
you
have,
want to put Padme, that's probably the worst leader in this set. I would say I'd put her a D.
yeah,
I can't think of anything positive with her.
yeah. I kind of agree. I don't know if I say she's the worst leader of the set, but I will definitely say that she's down there at the bottom. I have not enjoyed building decks around her. We'll put it that way.
Her ability, it's the coordinate. Like you want to go wide, but you're not like an aggro leader. And then you have like dig. It just doesn't. I'm curious who you think would be worse than her. Honestly, she
Worse
just
than her.
yeah. In this set, she just seems pretty lame to me.
Yeah. I don't know. Maybe she is my worst one. I don't know. I don't really like Previsla. So there
Okay,
you go.
sure. Well, you can go ahead and choose one here.
All right, so we will pick. Why don't we pick Mace Windu is next? So Mace Windu is the one that does some board clearing. Um, he is kind of the Vader-esque of the heroes, I would say. Um, Personally, I think he comes in on the high C side. I do think that there is some stuff that you can do with him. I just don't know if I'm sold that he's that good that I'm going to want to play him over some of the other hero leaders that we see, um, or have seen.
Yeah, I actually completely agree. I can't really add anything else to that. Yeah, be like he's not bad, like at
No,
all. I just don't think he's particularly incredible, which I think just fits into a C tier,
yeah.
kind of
He's
by definition.
like kind of like Bo, right? Like that's kind of how I like. I really wanted Bo to be good. I thought we'd have enough Mandalorians, and she just kind of like fizzled out. She just fizzles out for me. Um, I think that's what he's gonna. I think he's gonna kind of fizzle. All right, who's the next one? That was an easy one. Jeez.
Yeah, I mean, like, um, ooh, what do I want to do? Let's go with you know what? Let's just go. Let's just start at the top, I guess. Let's go with Nalase. I think there's enough impactful clones to make her deck useful. I don't think you build a clone deck with her. I think it's more like you splash in some wreckers and a little bit of tech, possibly some like echoes because you can have like four echoes and they kind of work together. So I think that she's like a high B, maybe at the very tail end of an A. I haven't that's a little bit iffy to say that already. But man, just ECLing out a wrecker in Blue Villainy is just rough.
So dirty.
Yeah, again, it's like I don't think you just dump a whole bunch of clones in her deck. I think you just build it kind of like a Blue Villainy deck, and then you splash in some really good cards.
Yeah.
Um,
And
yeah,
I'm in the same boat as you. I have actually built an all clone deck and then just built a green villainy deck, and both of them I've had good success with in testing. I think I can't say that she's going to be A tier, but I would say she's very close to it. I haven't done enough testing, in my opinion, to say she's A tier yet. But she like, I mean, yeah, the wrecker thing is so good. Like, holy crap. And you get fives, and you don't have to like worry about playing green if you don't want to. So like if you don't want the ECL and you want to go like a different style of build, I won't lie and say I've pretty much only done a blue green build with
I
her.
mean, ECL is just so nice, even like with heavy, right? Like you can just
Yeah.
ECL with heavy, and that's just really strong. He just hits for 6 and then dies and does 1 damage to everything.
Yep. It's just she's able to control the board with units. That's how I feel it.
Yeah.
And like there is some like token generation stuff that work like decently well with her. Like you if it's a clone card, you know, like it fits. And so I don't know, I think there's enough clone synergy that you can build her decently well. And because again, you're opening your card pool up again, right? There is 25 or something like that clone cards that can be used in total. Um, and she's like some of them you're just never gonna get. Um, the tech is good
Uh,
too, though. By the way,
yeah,
that's
yeah.
dirty,
I mean, you're
dirty.
putting tech into a blue villainy. People did that regardless. Um, yeah, she might have the potential to be like an A tier if they find a bunch of really good card combos. Again, it's just I think people might be a little bit focusing way too much on the clone aspect of it, and not like, no, this is just a blue villainy leader that also has access to Wrecker and
Yeah.
tech.
She works really well against Sabine, or is not Sabine, Satine, by the way. Just as an FYI, they play Satine, you don't kill Satine, and you can mill 4 cards off their deck and say, screw you. I want to mill
Yeah,
2.
the leader side herself, I'm
Yep.
sure. Yeah,
Yep. It's
she's
just so
like she's not doing much else.
like, okay, you want to kill her? Okay, whatever.
Yep.
Like, I don't care.
Yeah,
Um, the next one, I'm going to be a little controversial. I think I'm going to pick Ahsoka. I put Ahsoka in the A tier. Um, I think there's a lot with Ahsoka. I think that she has very good synergy. It's so much easier to create token units than originally I thought it was going to be. I think we were originally maybe not down on token creation, but it wasn't like our, I don't know. We didn't
we literally
feel,
use the phrase, "Man, it really depends on how much
yeah.
token generation is in this set," because it does.
And there is more than I originally thought there was going to be. And I think that she pairs very well. There's some really good cards she pairs really well with. And I hate saying this because like we haven't had like a leader be top tier that's come out of the starter packs outside of maybe like a Vader was really good in set 1. Like Vader was really, really good in set 1. Luke was pretty good in set 1. Um, but we're kind of seeing those leaders fall off a little bit set 2. I think when we pull some of the cards, they are built very generously built for Ahsoka. And I only say this, and I guess I won't want to spend a whole hour discussing why I really actually really like her um as a leader, but I think that when we look at what was really good in the Sabine decks, like that ambush, that I got a wing leader, I can like hit you for things, the surprise strikes that we've seen be really, really impactful. If you have the tokens and the ability to do that, she has some of that stuff. And so it's the action cheaty piece that I think makes her good. Um,
I wouldn't give her an A tier. I think she's solid, like at least a mid B to high B. I think she's a really solid aggro leader. Um, but also like if your opponent's just really good at controlling, you don't get the coordinate off. It's a little bit dead, especially if your whole deck's built around coordinate. But I think she's solid for sure. Again, I'm not sure if I would put any of these leaders in S tier. So maybe like the really high leaders are just A tier for me. So maybe my skill's slightly off, but I think she's just a solid B.
you think she's better than Nalase? How about that? That's the question I would
Ooh,
ask.
I don't think she's better than Nalase, but I definitely think she's better than Django. Hey, you have her ranked higher than Django too, right? Or
I do,
not?
yeah, yes,
Yeah.
100%. Yeah, no, I actually think she's probably better than Nalase, except for Blue Green Villain is just so good. That's,
Yeah, that's
that's
the
a
thing.
problem. Like that's a bigger problem. Green Villain is just good. She's 100% better than Django in my opinion. I think there's some things that Django will discover later, but like out of the box, Ahsoka just is it's an easy pickup, and she competes with Sabine's pretty easily, I think.
Let's see if we can get a controversial one with Asajj. For me, Asajj is like a C tier. Again, it's mostly you have to play an event beforehand, and like a lot of the times, I'd much rather deal with a board threat immediately than play an event and then deal with it later, especially when the payoff is +1 attack. Her leader side is fine, but I mean, it's not like she dies to open fire argument is like a fantastic argument, but she does die to open fire.
She dies to a lot of stuff.
She dies to a lot of things. 4 attack is not hard to come by when you hit 4 resources. I think like just like what You can't deploy her if they have like an echo based defender, right? Like, what are you supposed to do if you're getting stonewalled by that? Like, it's rough.
So we probably aren't controversial. I maybe the controversial thing is to me she's almost a D tier. Like I feel she's definitely on the low end of C. And I only say this. I hate saying this because like I really wanted her to be good. But you're right. Like if an opponent's playing against you and you have to play an event to get her ability and stuff like that off, they can swing in and then play their event to kill your unit. And this is
Yeah,
like the
this is combo
Kylo,
loss.
right? The Kylo issue is where you had to discard the card to give the +2. That actually is not really like it's only impactful if you're in an area they don't have on an arena they don't have units. Otherwise, you could play around that. And I'm not saying Kylo's not good, right? I think the Kylo discard a card to do the damage is better than this Asajj is. How about that?
Yeah,
I don't know.
I wouldn't put her in D just because I think yellow villainy is just in a good spot. Especially like it's not a disadvantage really that you have to play events because yellow's got some very, very, very strong events. So it's not
True.
like it's a negative that it's like, damn, now I have to play triple dark raid first instead of swinging in with a unit first. But at that point, why are you playing Asajj? Just play like Boba or something, just a better villainy leader kind of thing like that. So she might have some potential for some aggro, kind of like how Kylo did. So there might be something there, which is why I don't want to put her in absolute garbage D tier.
All right, that's fair. And I don't know. I just
I don't know. To me, like S tier is like really hard to achieve, and D tier is like literally unplayable. Like, what are you doing? So I think that's my thoughts on Asajj. What leader do you want to talk about?
So I'm gonna pick Yoda, and I'm gonna put Yoda in A tier. And I think that's because because we now have 3 sets of card pools. Yoda being able to tutor your deck. Yoda has actually kind of made that "You're My Only Hope" card like playable now. Like that card was like kind of okay and mostly trash. Like it just
It wasn't trash. It just wasn't worth the risk
yeah. Like if
because
you
of how
could
decks were constructed.
sure, if you could get your R2D2 off first, right? And then you know what you have, and great, it's a great card, but the combo is so crazy. Yoda's got a built-in one, and you could keep a card in your hand, put it on the top of your deck, and then play You're My Only Hope. I literally played like 2 Lukes in a row. I literally just had 2 Lukes in my hand and that card, and then just like used Yoda, turned around, put that card, played a Luke. Oh, yep, you killed something, died. Guess what? Now Luke's going to do -6. It's a middle thinker. I personally think Yoda is very, very good. I would like him to be a mill leader because that's what I would like to just play as like hero mill for the rest of the rest. I would like to play that till Worlds. That's what I would like to play, but I don't think that's going to be possible. But I don't know. I think Yoda's really strong. The ability to look at cards, rotate cards around, the ability like again, this is probably a little bit conditional, but when I had a Luke and that, You're My Only Hope, right? And being able to put the Luke on top, flip Yoda, show the Luke, kill something of measure, turn around, and then play the other card is just crazy. Like it's just silly. Some of the stuff you can do with Yoda.
Yoda would be the kind of only one I would consider putting in S tier, but I wouldn't want to say that like S tier because I don't think he's like busted. I think he's incredibly strong. I think he's probably the best leader from this set so far. Maybe time will tell on that. But I also have a similar Yoda story to you. I was just testing out like a mono blue Yoda because that seemed really easy to build. I swung with R2D2, saw that I had a Luke on top of my deck, and this was at 7 resources the flip turn. Played You're My Only Hope. Played Luke for 5, killed something. Activated Yoda, put Kai-Adi-Mundi on top of my deck, flipped out Yoda, discarded Kai-Adi-Mundi, killed their Zuckuss because it cost 5, and then played like a Queel afterwards because I still had 2 resources, and then swung in with all my guys. Like all of that, just different meddling with what you got is just really, really strong. But also, at the very worst, like drawing a card and putting your garbage card back on top or the bottom of the deck is just really good, you're literally just drawing a card.
Yeah.
And they just have to leave play too. And sometimes if you're going against like you can just kill one of their units and trigger Yoda, right? You don't have to have one of your units die. They just have to leave. You can get one of your guys waylaid and then trigger Yoda,
Mm-hmm.
which is so fun. And I think Blue Heroes still incredibly strong. We saw the Ray Dax do really, really well recently, right? And that's Red Han. They play a lot of blue hero cards that are really strong, like Luke and Obi and all that. And you still get that same card pool with Yoda. So seems very good to me. Let's well, you said you hated Pre Vizsla, so let's see why. Let's choose Pre Vizsla. To me, he seems solidly in C tier. Maybe like C. I'd put him higher than Mace Windu. Again, he's a very well statted leader, being out of 4/6 for 5. And there's actually a fair amount of ways to draw cards. It's not just like play mission briefing, draw 2 cards. A lot of it's like, hey, play commission, right? Like you like commission, where it's like, cool, I'm
Yep.
gonna filter something, and then that's still drawing a card. Remnant reserves. If you want to play Remnant Reserve, you draw 3 off Remnant Reserves if they're all units. So that counts for drawing cards, not just like, hey, I drew, I played Force Choke or something. They played Force Choke on me, and now I draw a card. So there's a lot of synergy there. I haven't looked too much into building around Pre Vizsla, but I think there's potential. Which is why I'm putting him like a higher C. I don't think he's incredible because like you're still red villainy is kind of is good. It's just he's probably not the leader you want for that. But I like him. Worst
So
comes to worst, he's a Mandalorian. You can throw a Darksaber on him.
fair enough. So I think for me, I don't know. Like for me, the only benefit to him is he's a 5 cost 4/6, which I think is really, really good. Like
With Saboteur, probably at that point, honestly, you should have 3 cards in your hand at turn 5 or turn 4.
yeah, I just think there is card hate in this set. There is, and I think my biggest issue with him is you have to pay a resource to do the damage, right? So like his non-leader side just feels like ridiculously dumb. Like I guess I play mission briefing and I could draw 2 cards, or what's that other 5 cost where I could draw 3 cards, and now I can do it's like kind of like it, but you still have to pay a resource. So like,
Yeah, I think his leader ability seems actually a lot more geared towards late game stuff than it is early, which is kind of not what you want for someone dealing direct damage because you want to kill a bunch of things.
yeah, and like I would say, like he would be good with blue, right? Because blue could be very good. But then I just think of Grand Inquisitor, and I could play something that has grid, and I can like shield it, and I can like get overwhelmed damage with some of these other things. And I just when I think of a red villain, I just don't like. I could play Vader for Christ's sake and feel better, I think, than Pre Vizsla. The only benefit is that he comes out as a 4/6 on 5 resources, and if you
That's
aren't
huge.
ramping, you can't take him down. Like you can't take him down. I don't know. I don't personally see it. I also don't like the whole card draw thing. I just it's not my thing. I do get the saboteur. Um, I do get the saboteur thing, and I do get that you could, if you could figure out how to build a deck where you're drawing cards and not getting pillaged somehow. I don't know. I feel there's just so much that could just go wrong with him. I guess
I think it's
I'll give
you
him
might
more than a Asajj, but
yeah. I think you might be a little bit too focused on the drawing cards part for damage, which is his leader ability. I get that, but I don't know. He's really well statted, and
yeah,
he has the potential to just deal out damage later in the game.
fair enough.
But yeah, like I don't know exactly where he slotted him between Asajj and Mace. I guess I can compromise for that.
Yeah,
What's your choice?
And again, I think if the Mandalorian synergy like could be good. It's just because he's red and not blue like Gar Saxon is. I don't know if it's gonna. I don't know. There's the one that I will admit I could be just wrong on. How about that? I'm gonna pick Dooku next, and I put Dooku in A tier. I think Dooku's really, really good. The exploit is, um, I think the exploit is an
Huge.
underrated concept, and like I have flipped him, and then it got the 3 exploit, and just like holy crap, just like you can go from being like this mid-range type thing to just dropping bomb after bomb after bomb, and there's so much synergy. Like I play the Benevolent. You can exploit, play the Benevolent, draw 4 more, put 4 more droids down. And then like Merry Christmas. Now you can play something else crazy. Like you could burn through your hand if you really want to. Um and then he is a 7 cost, but he has high stats for what he is. So you're not just taking him down super easy. I don't know. I'm very high on Dooku personally. I kind of like Yoda's playstyle better because of the card stuff, but Dooku's up there for me with Yoda.
I think Dooku eventually will be like A tier, but I don't think there's enough impactful separatist cards right now to just be like, oh, he's an A tier. Like I put him in like B plus. Don't get me wrong. Like I think he's really good in card cheating or like cheating on resources is always incredibly strong. But but the card pool itself, I'm not sure if you like took a real deep dive into like the separatist card pool, but it's not like huge. Like they're not impactful. Like you can cheat out Kraken for 3, which is nice because you create 2 more battle droid tokens, but he's still 2/5, right? Like, uh, it's mostly it's nothing with him. It is everything else around him that's causing the problems. Like there's just not a crazy separatist cards, and also I feel like because you're exploiting some of your units, if they have single card removal, Dooku just really suffers. Um, it's like if you kill off 2 droid tokens, put on Grievous or whatever, right? Um, yeah, probably a bad example. If you kill off like one droid and you just slap Grievous on there, and then they play a takedown or something, you just lost. You 2 for 1 yourself.
Mm-hmm.
So it gets really inefficient if they have good removal and not like mass removal, just like Force Choke, right? Whatever you drop, again, going back to like Kraken, drop them for 3, creates 2 battle tokens, they Force Choke Kraken, and then you're left with 2 battle droid tokens. And played all your resources. So once we get better separatist cards or more separatist cards, I think he'll easily be an A leader. I just think he's a B leader for now. That's just mostly because I've been trying to build a deck with Dooku, and I'm just like, wow, these are fine, but the pool is kind of wonky.
I'll leave him on the lower end of 8. I disagree with you pretty heavily on that one. So, all right, you get to pick. What's next?
Let's do Quinlan Voss. I think
Okay.
he's a solid B tier leader. Maybe below Ahsoka. That's hard to call. He's like right around Ahsoka. I think with ambush units, he's incredibly good because he's one of the few leaders that is like not an action, not a resource. It's just a trigger, like Boba. It's like, hey, when you play this unit, do this. So if you go to like we were talking about earlier, like you ambush out Plo Koon, that one shots Boba, like villainy Boba,
Mm-hmm.
and that's huge.
Yep.
So I think a lot of like just cleverly building your deck like that with doesn't have to be like all ambush, but I'm saying like ambush is like huge because it's just like boom, they take the damage and then you run it in there. If you got some 3s, like maybe like you have Ahsoka or something, you can ping off the shield of like a village protector and then swing in. Like just the 1 damage is it lets you trade up, and I'm always a fan of trading things up. So I think he's pretty solid B.
Yeah, so I personally put Ahsoka in A, and I would put Quinlan on the high end of B, borderlining A, depending on the build. Because I think there's synergy there, like you said, with the ambush. I really do think there's really good synergy with ambush, like with that. And he's a 5 cost, 3/5 or 3/7 body. He
And
comes
he's a
out.
Force and
He's a
Jedi.
Force unit. He's a Jedi. He's got like, I don't know, like he's, how about this? He's more fun to play than Ahsoka. That's what I will just tell you right now. I found him more fun to play than Ahsoka. But I also don't know if like the impact is there or not, right? Like the long-term impact. And I think it is personally, and I think he's kind of the, like he's the one I would say fits into an A tier if you can figure out the build pretty quickly.
Well, the problem is just like you could build a great deck, but if your opponent just doesn't have the units that cost the same, he falters a little
Yes.
bit. But no, I think he's very solid. I think he's a little bit underrated, honestly.
Yeah.
I think people might be sleeping on just like how much that extra damage lets you trade up.
I don't know. I almost think he's better than Nalase. Like, I don't know.
I just think Nalse's potential is higher than Quinlan Boss's.
All right. I'll concede the Ahsoka, I guess, and move Ahsoka down. I don't agree with that too, but I'll concede it.
I said he. I think he's. I said he's the same as Ahsoka. Like I'm not sure if I'd put him above or below.
All right, we're gonna pick Maul, and we're just gonna put Maul in S tier, and we're not even having a discussion. We're gonna just move on. Do we have to have a Maul discussion? I hate having this discussion.
I mean, I would love to hear your thoughts on why you think Maul's just incredible.
I don't, because I don't. I just want him to be like I don't. I I think he's better than Django. There you go. He's better than Django.
I mean, I would definitely put him higher than Django.
I personally think he's just a solid B character. I think that he has potential, but I think it'll come more in some of the other sets. We have been playing around with Maul actually a lot. Like honestly, like a lot. Like that's like Maul's the one we would like to break. Like Kira was kind of like the one for last set that we were like super high on in internal testing. Maul, I don't feel as high on as I felt on Kira personally. And I'm having a harder time wanting to feel that way because I really just want Maul to be the best character. And I think that against non-control decks, he does very well. But when you run into control decks, he's struggling, in my opinion.
Yeah, he seems like a solid enough mid-range leader, kind of like how Luke is, right? Where like,
Yeah,
he's good. He's a solid B plus kind of thing. I don't think I put him all at B plus yet, but um, yeah, I mean, just like you build around Red Villain's pretty decent. He's a good go tall leader, right? You slap a lightsaber on him, and then he's just a menace. But yeah, again, he will fall to control pretty hard.
yeah. And it's just I don't like. I hate saying that because I just want him to be good, but I think again, I think it's sealed. He's really good, like we talked about in one of our last segments.
Yeah.
But I think when we talk about constructed, I think there's some work that needs to be done. But I don't know. There is some pretty cool yellow cards that we've been playing around to try to make an undefeatable Chirrut and stuff like that. And so, like, there's discussions about trying to make an undefeatable Maul as well. It just doesn't work as easy because his leader ability is not the same. But I mean, I will tell you, like, if you could keep the board clear and keep units on the table, Maul will just walk over you. But I have to leave him. I still think Ahsoka's better, I guess.
Yeah, I would agree.
Which I don't want that. But let's move on.
Yeah, let's talk about Anakin. Speaking of red, so Anakin, again, I was mentioning earlier, he's a really good mid-range leader, right? Like just you trade your units up. I really liked off Gideon in like the past month or so, and that one extra damage really helps out a lot. Anakin lets you hit off for 2, which is ridiculous. Granted, you are hitting your own base for 2. I think there's some solid builds with blue to restore a little bit, kind of minimize that. But I also think there's like you just go not hard aggro, but like aggro, kind of like yellow with your surprise strikes and stuff, and really just push damage through. I'd put him at like a higher B. I think I like him more than Nala. Borderline A tier. You are giving me crazy looks here. I don't see what you don't like about this guy. What do you say?
Not A tier. I like Ahsoka better than I like Anakin. I like Nala Se better than I like Anakin. How about that?
I had him a high B tier.
Like,
I think he's really good. He's a very strong mid range. Like you just trade your units off, and then he hits the board and he just starts swinging.
And that's fair. And I think, like, personally, I think that he fits better than like a Maul, right? I just don't know if I consider him A tier. I don't know. And maybe we're just prioritizing Nala Se too high. Maybe that's the case. Maybe we've just prioritized her too high. I don't know.
I think Anakin's better than her. You kind of make it sound like the opposite.
I don't, because I like her better. But I play again. I'm a control player too, so that's my problem. Like that again, in a controlling lens, I don't like the dealing 2 damage to your base. Like, and it's not like you get the overwhelm, right? Like, so you're not doing the 2 damage and the overwhelm. But you are right. Like, I have played your Gideon deck, and I won't lie and say that like I've had success with that Gideon deck. Whereas, like at the beginning of the set, I hated Gideon and didn't want nothing to do with him. And you are correct, like being able to control that like board, push your damage through. That's fine. I'll give high B. How about that? I'll give it over LSA. I'll concede there is a possibility that you can build a super aggro deck, I think, with this character more than others.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't necessarily push for the aggro because you only get the +2 when you're attacking other units, so you don't hit the base harder. But you just efficiency rating, like you can drop an R2D2, right? The original 1 cost base set R2D2 and take out pretty much every 2 drop.
And that's fair. And I guess if you think about it, I guess on the opposite side is when you get to like some of that mid tier where people are dropping 6 and 7 costs, you being able to trade into that for only 2 damage to your base is probably better than what I'm giving it credit for, because you are. All right. You convinced me. We're gonna move it to A tier.
And if your units have overwhelm like K2SO, you hit harder into their base.
Yeah, because then you can just trigger yourself, kill yourself off. And maybe it's just because I built a couple of Anakin decks and I lost my ass every time. So like maybe it's just because I'm not a good deck builder for Anakin.
Again, I'm not saying he's A tier. I think he's really strong, but like I feel like there's only a couple A tier leaders in this set, so I feel like a majority of them are going to be B, but that's roughly right? Like you kind of want your leaders to be C to B, like just from an average game. I don't know.
No, I want all A tier. All right, let's keep moving. Let's I don't know. Let's pick Grievous. I'm avoiding a specific character because you and I will definitely disagree on that one.
Mm-hmm.
Let's pick Grievous. I give Grievous mid tier. I think Ahsoka is better than Grievous, but I think I don't know. Like Grievous is on a low B to like top C for me. I think that Grievous has a lot of potential to be better, but the problem is like the Dooku exploit feels better because it's the green blue villain. Maybe that's why it feels better than the Grievous exploit. But I don't know, like in testing I have found that like overwhelm and different things like that, they just don't like. Yeah, I could spawn a bunch of droids, but I can't get Grievous to work in the same way I can get other leaders to work. How about that?
Yeah, I'd put Grievous in C tier. Honestly, I'd probably rather have Pre Vizsla. the Sentinel is nice. It saves you, but like your droid pool is okay, and all you're doing is giving a Sentinel out, and he doesn't. I don't think he's impact. He doesn't make things impactful enough to like have him to choose him over other yellow villainy leaders or other different colored leaders and splashing in yellow. Like, I don't know. I admittedly haven't put like a ton of effort into building out a Grievous deck. It just seems like your droids are fine. It's cool if some of them get Sentinel, but it doesn't impact the game enough to make a huge difference.
Yeah, I just found that because he's that yellow leader, right? Like I have found that I would I want my blue, but then I find that Grievous and blue don't work very well, so it only works decently well with the green suite, and then like it just feels bad because like I don't want to be stuck in one color suite, you know. And that's kind of what I feel with Grievous. Whereas like some of these other leaders, like Ahsoka, can range out. Maul can be multiple colors more, and I don't know. So I don't know. I'll agree. We'll just put Grievous in high C. I like him better than Pre-Vizsla. How about that? We'll do that. All right. What's the next one?
Oh, let's go with good old Captain Rex.
Okay.
I think he's probably somewhere. It's like high C or low B, right? Like you can make some solid trooper decks around him, but that's about it. Like he's very pigeonholed into doing kind of one style,
Yeah, he's like the Leia of this set. That's what he feels
right?
like.
And I mean, Leia was really good in set one. Don't get me wrong, but like she still gets passed up, and I feel like Captain Rex is fine. It's just two resources to create something just for the coordinates, and you're depending on coordinates, and if you just get wiped out or they control the like coordinates fine, but if you don't have the units, there's literally nothing there, right? So that's how I feel about him. I'd put him above Grievous, but I don't think I'd put him higher
Yeah,
than Maul or anything.
definitely not higher than Django. All right, we'll put him there. That's fine. I'm in mostly.
No, I agree. I would say I would take Django over Rex.
All right, our boy Watt. Where do we put Watt? Do we just throw Watt in C tier? Just kidding. So Watt allows you to kind of do similar exploit type things. Watt he's a green. He doesn't have really amazing stats. I don't know. I put him low B, I guess. I don't know. Like I think he has potential. I don't know. I don't like him more than Ahsoka, but I don't like him more than Maul because I like Maul better. But I like his style of play. I feel fits probably over Maul's. Like I think he fits in the set better, and he fits with some of the other cards that we could play. I don't know. So mid B.
I'm pretty high on Watt. I'm probably like a B plus. I like Watt a lot. Honestly, it's just kind of like cool. One of my dudes died. Now something impactful gets +2/+2 for that turn. It's like we are just talking about with Anakin, where you can trade up with that. You can kind of do it in like different. You can almost like make it like kind of an aggro deck out there just by, throwing a unit in there. Into one of their like Sentinel units or something, and then like buffing up something strong, like, or probably more likely you exploit one of your battle droids, give something +2/+2. Now it's a pain. You could drop a Sentinel, something dies, give the Sentinel +2/+2. I like Watt a lot, honestly. I have to get around to building more decks around him, but he seems really good, and like the stats are okay. He's a 3/6, but he comes out on 5. Like you're not really he's not there for the leader.
Yeah. The only issue I really have is it's an action. You have to take an action to get that 2/2, right? Which I guess it's fine when you have a Sentinel, right? Like with Sentinels, it works very well, 100%. It's just that action economy I don't like as much. Like I would rather it just be an automatic thing. Like if it was just an automatic thing, I think Watt would just be
That'd be
A
silly.
tier. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, he lose slightly out on tempo, but like, you're probably not going to give like your weaker unit the +2/+2. You give your stronger unit the +2/+2, and then just hit
Mhm.
harder. I like him. I like him a fair bit. I put him probably on the same tier as Quinlan Voss, honestly, for me.
I just don't know if I like him more than Ahsoka. That's fine. We'll put him
Oh
next
yeah.
in the buff.
Let's do Newt Gunray next.
All right.
Why do you laugh?
Let's do New Gunray.
Yeah, he's
He
fun.
just it's New Gunray is silly because of Destiny, but that's it.
Oh,
That's all. There's previous Newt Gunray.
shenanigans.
Yeah.
Well, in this one, I think he's pretty solidly like mid to low B. I think the getting a little bit of a refund on exploit is really good, and a lot of blue exploit seems really strong. And it's just kind of an efficiency thing. You just always have more slaughter or fodder for your exploit units. His unit ability is not great. He's a 2/8, which is fine, but he's a 6 cost, and on attack, he create a battle droid token. It's not impactful. But I think there's a fair amount of like exploit synergy that works really well with him. But also, you kind of had that problem with Dooku, a little bit less so because you're not limited specifically to separatists, but like, cool, you sacked 3 of your units to play that giant tank thing, and then they play like a waylay, and then you just be really sad. Then you get a droid back at least this time. So, I mean, he seems like lower B. It really kind of. I'm sure there's a deck that's going to use him pretty well. I'm sure with the exploits energy and all that kind of stuff, but I don't think he's A tier or anything like that. So
I like Ahsoka better than I like him, personally.
I agree.
And I kind of like Maul better than I like him.
I'd probably put them on the same tier as well. They play dramatically differently, but I'm just like, yeah, they're roughly both pretty useful. They might get hosed by particular strategies, but they're not bad leaders.
All right, let's do Obi-Wan next. Obi-Wan is the heal guy. Like, you get to
Yep.
heal, so seems pretty good, right?
Sure. Where would you put Obi-Wan?
Honestly, again, you know me and my action economy. I feel he's low B personally,
Ooh,
but that's just
I'd
me.
put him in higher C or like mid C, honestly.
Okay, all right, fine, fair enough.
Yeah.
I will concede to that too. I like Django better than I like him. So
Like healing 1 damage from a unit, as we discussed earlier, can be impactful, specifically far more in limited than it is in constructed. Um, it's fine. His sentinel is nice. His on attack is pretty solid, especially because you can heal yourself. It's like a really tiny. Why am I blanking on that name? It binds all things. You heal 1, do 1 somewhere else. Blue hero, a lot of good force units, a lot of strong synergy with that. Healing is fine. I guess if you really want to double down on that, you do have Ray as well. I just he doesn't impact as much. Like I'd rather run Ray. I'd rather run Yoda. I'd rather run Chariot almost, honestly. So it's like he's fine. Like there's nothing explicitly bad about him. He just seems costed perfectly fine.
yeah, the other thing that like I don't like him being a sentinel himself. Like the Chewbacca was good because Chewbacca has 9 health, right? So like him being a sentinel is fine because he can take damage. You get at least 1 big swing off usually. Like not very many people are just taking Chewbacca down in 1 turn. Though you can do that, by the way. I've done that before. And he's like he's 7 health. So like
Yeah, I mean,
he's not
he
gonna live
can
very
heal
long
himself that 1 on attack because it's any
on
unit.
attack, but
Yeah, you take 2 hits and then he's dead.
yeah, he feels kind of like the Mando with this. Like you really want him to be good, but man,
Yeah, I mean,
he can't get on the
he
work.
seems totally average.
Yeah. He'll be very fun to play. How about that? Like he'll be a fun character to play But that's about it.
Yeah.
All right, our last one, Chancellor Palpatine. I'm sticking Palpatine in A. I don't think he's as good as Dooku or Yoda per se. How about this? I do think he's very good and could be potentially better than all of them if you know how to build the deck correctly and you know how to play it. He is a very high capacity, like, for you to play. Like, I don't think that you're going to be able to. The average person is not going to pick a Palpatine up with little practice and just play it. I don't think it works like that. I think he's extremely his ability is extremely strong. I don't care as much about the leader aspect. Like, yes, like Anakin's style of play is Anakin comes out and is going to hit you like insanely hard, right? Maul's going to hit you really hard. Ahsoka's going to hit you extremely hard. You know, I don't know if like not having a leader is impactful enough, though. I mean, we see like a Boba leader is very impactful, not having a Boba leader, but you have all these other things where you're creating tokens. And I think the biggest hump to overcome is just that first, how do I kill my first, hero so I can start flipping and going back and forth. And then your card pool. But you can tutor your card pool. He is yellow. So there is stuff there. I don't know. I think he's low end A, but that's just me.
I think as the game goes on, he becomes significantly stronger. I don't think he's particularly good right now. I think so for him, like, you don't want a ton of villain cards, right? Like, you don't want half your deck to be villainy. Like, that's just not how you want to build a deck, because it's not you have way too high of a chance of just being you making suboptimal choices or suboptimal plays. I don't think the villains cards impact the game enough for me to choose him over another, like Quinlan Voss or something. Or if I'm going villainy, like, I'm not gonna choose him as my leader. He also kind of suffers if your opponent understands. It's like, hey, you're on your hero side and you claimed or whatever, and I'm just now gonna kill all your hero guys and you can't flip next turn. Like, there's a whole bunch. Not having a leader unit, I think, is such a massive tempo drawback that it hurts. I've played against several Chancellor Palpatine decks that some of my friends are building, and they all just, sure, it's difficult to build. I just don't think that anything impactful can be made out of them yet. Maybe I'm wrong. I'm sure someone will find something. I know a lot of people are pouring a lot of resources to try to make him work, and like, he's got a good strong draw engine. Like, that's not a problem for him. I just don't think the cards that the opportunity cost to play him, I don't think it's good enough to not play another leader of that color. I understand wanting to play him, and I get it because it's super cool. You got villains and heroes, and it's a puzzle they have to put together, and your villain side sets up your hero side by giving you the clone trooper that you can just sack off. I just don't think the villain cards that you're going to put into him are super impactful. I think like blue is pretty solid with him. I think green, probably is pretty good. I just like having access to overwhelming barrage is huge, but if you're putting your generic units out there, like, what do they get? What do you get? You overwhelming barrage like Ezra? That's 5, right? Like, I don't. There's so much hype around him. I get it. I just don't think you can build an A tier deck out of him right now. So I'd probably put him in B. Like, I think he's fun. I just don't. I think the opportunity cost is way too high with him. I've got a lot of issues with him.
All right, fair enough.
I mean, every other person's put him in S tier, so
Yeah,
I don't think they're putting him in S tier because they're like, someone will break this. And they're just depending on someone to break it, and if no one ever breaks it, congratulations. I don't know. I just, from very passionate friends who are really trying to make it work, it just doesn't seem like it fits together well. Again, given more time, when you have more busted villain cards coming out, or just more options in general. I think it'll be a lot better. I'm just not sure about this set at this particular time.
Fair enough. All right. Well, I'm gonna put him in high B, because I get to the last save.
Sure.
So that's what I'm gonna do. I still think A, but we'll see. We'll see who takes it down with Palpatine. But he is very fun to play. I mean, and I'm not playing him with green, by the way. Like, just so you know, I have not actually built a Pulp green deck with him. What do we call him?
Call him
Palp
like
2?
Sidious. Can we call him Sidious, please?
No. I like
Why?
calling him because he's Palpatine.
It's unambiguous if we call him Sidious. There's no reason to call him Palpatine. I keep getting confused because people are like, "Oh, well, it's your Palpatine thing," and I'm like, I go off there like, no, the other one, the hero one. I'm like, just say something. Say Chancellor. Say Sidious. Like, he's got names. Also, because he's Chancellor Palpatine, he doesn't work with his own royal guards because he's not Emperor Palpatine. That's really funny to me.
That is true. I don't know. So that is our tier ranking list. We were going